In the previous lecture, we looked into, we started with the topic of resolution. We looked into what actually resolution is, why do we need resolution, what are the reasons behind choosing resolution as the technique, and then we looked into one of the examples that how we are going to perform this resolution. Now, at every step we are going to increase the complexity of this resolution example. So, this lecture also is kind of dedicated to your resolution examples. Now, let us take a classical example of resolution in which that example is actually titled as all humans are mortal. Now, in resolution we have been given a knowledge base, which is actually some set of statements, and that needed to be converted into FOL, then CNF, then kind of resolution is to be done, and then we will see that whether we are able to prove the goal yes or no. So, let us consider the given sentences. In the previous example, we have directly used some of the FOL statements and then performed the whole process of resolution. Here I am going to take you one step back, in which these sentences are given, knowledge base is given, and we need to convert that knowledge base into FOL first and then perform the whole resolution as we did in the previous example. So, let us see what knowledge base is given. So, the knowledge base is given is having two simple statement which says all humans are mortal and Socrates is a human, and the goal here is Socrates is mortal. Now, as human being, if we see these two statements, we say okay, from A and B we can infer that goal is being proved, fine, but imagine how an AI agent is going to do that. So, for that we need to convert these statement into first order logic. So, the first statement which says all humans are mortal will be converted into first order logic as for all x, human x implies mortal x, and the second statement which says Socrates is a human. So, we will say human and within the bracket we say Socrates. So, human Socrates, and for all x, human x implies mortal x because it says all humans are mortal, and now we need to negate the goal. So, what was the goal? The goal was Socrates is mortal, that means mortal and within the bracket Socrates, but we need to negate the goal. So, negation of goal says negation of mortal Socrates, and now with this negation of goal we are going to include this negation of goal into the set of clauses. So, finally, I am having 3 clauses now. So, the two which were given in the knowledge base and third which is the negation of your goal. Now, but before doing this we need to convert this FOL into CNF. So, now CNF, for conversion of CNF we need to remove implication, that is the first step. So, in order to remove the implication from the first clause which says human x employs mortal x, the equivalence rules is negation of human x or mortal x, and this is actually done for all x. So, there is a universal quantifier before this clause. So, the total comes as in for all x negation of human x or mortal x. Now, in order to convert into CNF, apart from removing implication, if there is any negation, that negation has to be moved inwards. We cannot move this negation inward anymore. Apart from that, we need to kind of remove the quantifiers, whether it is a universal quantifier or it is an existential quantifier. So, existential quantifier can be removed with the help of Skolomization, whereas your universal quantifiers can be kind of dropped directly because they applies to the whole universe. So, after removing implication, when we drop universal quantifier from the statement for all x negation of human x or mortal x, we are just left with negation of human x or mortal x. So, this is one statement which has been after translating into FOL, now it is converted into CNF, and the next clause which was already available and is in in the form of CNF, it is human Socrates, and the negation of goal is mortal Socrates. So, now I am having these three clauses, and now I need to resolve them. So, resolution here is very simple. So, we need to unify x with Socrates. So, from 1, negation of human, x was there, we are unifying x with Socrates or moral Socrates. So, x will be replaced by Socrates, we can say, and then it will be resolved with second clause. The second clause was mortal Socrates. So, now we have negation of human Socrates or mortal Socrates, then mortal Socrates, and also human Socrates we have. Now, this is in the next step will be kind of resolved with the step number 3rd. So, ultimately we end up with a empty clause which is actually a contradiction. So, we can say that our goal whose negation we have added, the goal was mortal Socrates, has been proved. So, now if we look into the total set of clauses which was available was negation of human x or mortal x, then human Socrates, and negation of mortal Socrates. So, in the first step we unified x in the clause number 1 with Socrates, then that clause number 1 is resolved with the clause number 2. So, negation of human Socrates and human Socrates will cancel out, then we are left with mortal Socrates and negation of mortal Socrates, and in the next step of resolution these two clauses which are left, which is mortal Socrates and negation of mortal Socrates, will also cancel out, and finally we end up with the only contradiction, which is the empty clause. And when we have contradiction, so we can conclude that our goal has been proven, which is mortal Socrates, because negation of goal has been already added into the clauses, and the whole process is done with the help of the technique which is known as refutation. Now, let us say we start we go with one step ahead, that means we are looking for a little more complicated example. Now, the example is having some axioms or having some sentences given. What are those sentences? So, the sentences is everyone who loves all animals is loved by someone, that is the first sentence. So, now the idea is we will convert them into FOL, then from FOL to CNF, negate the goal, add it to the clauses, and then finally resolve and look into the result. So, the first statement is everyone who loves all animals is loved by someone. The second statement is John loves all animals, and the third one is cat is an animal, and the goal which we need to prove is someone loves John. So, this is what our whole kind of automated reasoning example look like. Now, the idea is to convert all these clauses into the FOL format. So, the first order logic says the clause number 1, which was everyone who loves all animals is loved by someone, will be converted into FOL as for all x, for all y, animal y implies loves x comma y, implies, this whole statement implies there exists z which loves z comma x. So, if you want to convert the first statement into FOL, so this will come look like as a result of FOL, conversion of the first statement will look like this. Now, the second statement was John loves all animals. So, it says animal y implies loves John comma y, and this will go with for all y. So, for all y as the universal quantifier before the clause, and the next clause is animal within the bracket cat, which says cat is an animal. Now, the goal was someone loves John, and the goal is there exists Z loves Z comma John, and there exists means we are talking about someone. So, someone loves John will be written as there exists loves Z comma John, and we need to negate the goal. So, negation of there exists loves Z comma John will look like this. Negation is moved inward because there is no point in keeping this negation before there exists, because negation is with a clause, it is not the negation with the your universe existential or quantifier. So, when we take this negation inward, there exist will be converted into for all and vice versa. So, if we take negation inwards and there and then there the present quantifier was the universal quantifier, it will be converted into the existential quantifier. So, here we will say for all Z negation of loves Z comma John. So, this is our actually negated form of the goal, which we need to include with all these clauses. So, now the total clauses are kind of given on the screen. So, first is for all x within the bracket for all y animal y loves x comma y implies there exists z loves z comma x. For all y animal y implies loves John comma y, and the third one is animal cat, and the negated form of the goal is for all z negation of loves z comma John. So, this is actually the total set of clauses which we need to resolve. Now, we need to what we are doing in order to convert them into the CNF form, which is a clausal normal form. So, we will break the first sentence because the first sentence is having some kind of nested qualifiers. So, we have for all x negation of for all y animal y implies loves x comma y, and we have taken an equivalence rules. So, by that equivalence rule now we have or there exists z loves z comma x. So, now what are we going to do? We need to convert the inner part. So, in order to convert the inner part, we also have other statements. So, which says animal x implies loves x comma y, and this will be written as negation of animal y or loves x comma y, and this was actually an equivalence rule. It was one of the equivalence rules, if you are able to recall it. Then there is a kind of negation which says there exists y animal y and negation loves x comma y. So, we have taken negation in this way. Then here we have existential quantifier also, which is kind of there exists y and we have there exists z also. Now, in conversion of FOL to CNF, so the first idea was to remove the implication, the second was to move the negation inward. The third step in conversion of FOL to CNF is iscolemization. So, iscolemization, here we are using f of x in place of y and we are using g of x in place of z. So, the clauses will become animal y. So, in place of animal y it will be animal f of x, and in place of negation of loves x comma y or loves z comma x, it will become negation of loves x comma f of x, because f of x will be replaced in place of y, or loves g of x which is in place of z comma x. So, loves g of x comma x. So, this is going to be the final form of the clauses after iscolemization. Now, from the second sentence we are going to derive negation of animal y or loves John comma y, and from third we have animal cat, the negated goal is negation of loves z comma John. So, this is going to be the complete set of clauses. So, first is animal f of x, negation of loves x comma f of x, or loves g of x comma x, and negation of animal y or loves John comma y, animal cat, and negation loves z comma John. So, this is the total set of clauses which we need to resolve. So, the next step which is upcoming is about resolution. So, the step 1 says we need to resolve 3 and 4. So, when we resolve 3 and 4, animal y and animal negation of animal y and animal cat is there. So, we will unify y with cat and then we will cancel out both, and we we are left with loves John comma y, or we can say that loves John comma cat. Now, using clause 2, we need to substitute x with John. So, we have negation loves John and within the bracket f of John, because f of x is there, then or loves g of John comma John. So, this is our second clause after substituting x is equals to John. Now, moving forward, we need to take animal f of John and the third statement which says loves John f of John. We will resolve them and we get loves g of John comma John, and when we resolve this result with the fifth one, we are coming to a we can say an empty clause. So, empty clause is again kind of an contradiction. So, with this contradiction we again achieved our goal, which was kind of negated and included into the list of what we can say list of clauses to be resolved. So, same process we need to follow, but in this particular example we took a little complicated statements and then kind of we moved ahead. Now, again one more example, let us say for all dogs bark, some pets are dog, and the goal is some pets bark. So, by this time this is kind of an statement which is having an difficulty level as we did in the second one. So, here we will convert them to FOL. For all x, dog x implies bark x is the first FOL conversion of the first statement. There exists pet x and dog x is the conversion of the second one. The negated goal is negation of there exists x, pet x and bark x, and when we move the negation inward, it will convert the universal quantifier into existential one and vice versa. So, ultimately we have for all x negation of pet x or negation of bark x. So, with this clauses we need to kind of resolve them, but before that the conversion into CNF is left. So, when we want to convert negation of dog x or bark x, we need to scholemize and we are taking x is equals to a. So, the clauses will become negation of dog x or bark x, pet a, dog a, negation of pet x or negation of bar x. So, wherever we are having there exists quantifier or the existential quantifier, we are going to put or we are going to use the technique of scholemization, because with the technique of scholemization this particular existential quantifier will be removed and universal quantifiers can be directly dropped. So, with these set of clauses, now we can use maybe the second and the fourth one, unify x with a and then cancel out pet a and negation of pet a, while we have or negation of bark x, and there we have in the one bark x. So, bark x will be cancelled out with negation of bark x. Then finally, we will be left with negation of dog x and dog a, and which can be further unified and resolved in the way cancelled out, and what we will be left with is just the kind of we can say contradiction, which is nothing but an empty clause. So, finally, we can say yes, we have resolved our goal, we have achieved the goal, and the goal was here in this example was some pets bark, and we negated that and included into the list of clauses. Now, we have seen kind of we have looked into few examples of the resolutions, and then we can have resolution is such an important topic, and with the varying level of difficulties. So, we will be taking a couple of more examples. Now, the example come from the smart students, it is a classical example. All students who study hard pass exams, everyone who passes exams is happy, Ram studies hard. These are the three clauses which are given in the knowledge base, and we need to prove, or the goal is to prove Ram is happy. And now, with kind of 3 or 4 examples covered already, I am going to take it in a little faster manner, because now you all understood that what actually is happening and how the things are proceeding. So, in conversion of FOL, we have for all x student x and studies hard x implies pass x, for all x pass x implies happy x, student Ram and studies hard Ram, and the negation of the goal is happy Ram. Conversion of these FOL statement into CNF is going to give us negation of student x or negation of studies hard x or pass x. The second one converts into negation of pass x or happy x. The third one is student Ram studies hard Ram, because now that was actually an end, and that can be broken into the 2 separate ones, and the negated goal is happy Ram. And with this 3-4 statements and the negated goal, we are going to do the resolution, or we are going to resolve these clauses substituting x with Ram, negation of student Ram or negation of studies hard Ram or pass Ram will be resolved with student Ram and studies hard Ram, and finally, the result which is which we need to have is pass Ram, and this is kind of what we can say is available from the first step, which is pass Ram. Now, again we will substitute x is equals to Ram in the next clause, which is negation of pass Ram or happy Ram resolved with, when it is resolved with pass Ram, we end up with happy Ram. Now, resolve with negation of happy Ram, and what we had in our hand is happy Ram, and the negation of C1, or we can say C1 and negation of C1. So, finally, we achieve at a contradiction, and when we achieve contradiction as per the previous examples, we conclude that Ram is happy. So, now we have seen kind of so many examples of resolution with varied levels of difficulty. We started with some clauses which are already in their FOL format. We just took those simple clauses, converted them into CNF and then resolved. At the second level, we took some statements, convert them into FOL and then resolved them, then increased the difficulty level, which obviously makes the conversion of FOL into CNF more complicated. But 1 or 2 classical examples are still left with what is needed to be covered in order to complete the topic of resolution in AI. Although we have seen so many examples, but I am still feeling the need of 2 more examples with the difficult difficulty, with the increasing difficulty level, that I will be kind of taking up in my next lecture. So, here in this lecture we have completed few of some of the examples of resolution with difficulty, with varying levels of difficulties. Here is a list of references which is being used for the preparation of lecture. I hope you have enjoyed this one. I will see you in the next. Till then, take care. Goodbye.